I just investigated Ilhan Omar's official financial disclosures, and what I found was so dark and criminal. I don't know how she gets out of this without going to jail. Have a look at this.
Ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me for having such a massive smile on my face as I'm actively working hard to try and hold back my shit-eating grin here, but it brings me great pleasure to present to you the absolute end, or at least the beginning of the end of the worst known elected official ever to hold a seat in the once great state of Minnesota, the worst in the entire country and all of Congress, for which there are many. But a one Ms. Ilhan Omar is about to be deported. And yes, I know you've all heard this before, but stick with me here because what just happened has never, ever happened before. And it's all thanks to the incredible work of independents like Nick Shirley, Benny Johnson, James O'Keefe, Nick Sorter, Cam Higbee, and of course, the host of LV Nation himself, Mr. Lou Valentino. But this is straight up breaking right now, and it's exploding as we speak. And it's just dripping with the high stakes political thriller vibe that is trending right now. The kind where massive corrupt empires start cracking and falling apart at the seams. Live on air, Dems begin stabbing each other in their backs and pushing everyone down flights of stairs, hoping to see them break their necks. And so you see now, but especially with Ilhan Omar staring down what could be her total game over downfall, checkmate. Well, then when I say you absolutely have to drop everything and watch this Lou Valentino video, it's not hyperbole. Fellow independent YouTubers and truth seekers are blowing the lid off this thing just today, and it's the kind of exclusive jaw-dropping reveal that's got everyone glued and waiting on the edge of their seats, glued to refreshing their feeds to see what happens next. As always, hit that like button and subscribe. And I really do appreciate you all so very much. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's reached out and supported over on Patreon. It's under the name Better America, and that's actually one of my other channels, but you all really do mean a lot to me. And I just want to make sure that you have the latest, greatest, and most accurate real news, and most importantly, the truth. And so here's why it's a non-negotiable must watch after you're done with my show here, of course. And so you see, it's this, the game-changing bombshell at around the 14-minute mark. But that's where Lou drops a mind-blowing reveal that's like cracking open a vault, exposing the shadowy mechanics of what looks like a full-blown anti-ICE crime syndicate in Minnesota run by heavyweight scumbags like Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey. And it's effectively, without giving away any spoilers, them throwing one of their key players under the bus as a bit of a good faith gesture, if you will, to President Trump. Right after Tim Walz's resignation in the campaign for him running for a third term and quitting and dropping out of the Minnesota gubernatorial race. But more importantly, his tail-tucking surrender call to Trump that just kicks off the power shift in Minneapolis. But right as they sacrifice one of their own in exchange for a peace offering and to symbolize good faith after Tim called Trump to surrender and begin a peaceful transfer of power on the streets of Minneapolis. This isn't just talk. It's the kind of peek behind the curtain that could rewrite the playbook on how these operations shield fraud and chaos. The comments are lit and everyone's losing it in the comments with over 1,800 likes on the video already, fueling the fire. Stuff like calls for class action lawsuits against Ilhan Omar, Walz, and Frey for fraud and getting citizens killed. Demands to lock them up for insurrection and accusations of them fleeing the country as the noose tightens. Oh, and one top comment screams they shouldn't be allowed to bail as flight risks, while another poses serious questions as to why authorities aren't nabbing them before they jet off. And so there's that. But The vibe, pure vindication for anyone who's been screaming about Minnesota's blood on their hands from riots and scams. And it's like a virtual mob chanting for justice, virtually teeing up the long-awaited Omar deportation we all crave.
In one city, we have this outrage and this powder keg happening, and it's not right, and it doesn't happen anywhere else, and it's simply because of one reason, and that's leadership in that state. When there was all the focus on the billions and billions of dollars in fraud happening in Minneapolis, suddenly Minneapolis becomes a powder keg. And the people that caused that to happen were the governor, the mayor, the attorney general, Omar. They're the ones that incited rhetoric, encouraged these rioters to go with their cell phones, not to peacefully protest, but to go out and do exactly what was happening on Saturday morning. And so there was a powder keg, and it was absolutely lit by that leadership.
Deputy Attorney General Todd Bland.
There was a powder keg. And when billions, in fact, in fraud blew up in Minneapolis suddenly, but we know who caused it, right? But the governor, mayor, AG, and Omar, they incited this mess. But let me just say how the internet's current meltdown over Minnesota's corruption explosion is next level. And this video lands like a match in a powder keg amid the real-time frenzy online. Just today, social media is on fire with posts claiming Walz, Frey, and Omar are staring down grand jury indictments for impeding ICE in ties to massive Somali fraud schemes. Think billions siphoned from taxpayer programs, with whistleblowers fingering the governor and mayor as fully aware. X is flooded with threads painting Omar as finished, hit with money laundering charges from campaign kickbacks and funneling funds to her husband's firm, all linked to those ghost clinics and restaurant front scams. But what I have to show you in my next clip is just going to make you have to pick your jaw up off the floor. So you might want to grab a seat if you haven't. News outlets are piling on with DOJ probes into Omar's skyrocketing net worth and alleged fraud, plus federal investigations slamming Walz and Frey for blocking immigration enforcement amid raids that have netted thousands. Even Trump's weighing in on a very good call with Walz to dial back the feds. But the buzz right now is this surrender is just the start of a bigger purge. Get your popcorn, folks. But like I said, you're going to want to be sitting down for this. Grab your popcorn, everyone. This one's going to rock bigger than Sydney Sweeney as the housemaid in the box office, or even ripping her bra off illegally on the Hollywood sign. Watch as, for the first time ever, Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar goes completely silent. But Americans are all asking her about the oversight committee looking into her rapidly growing net worth. But something's just not right. Something's off. She seems completely different today. I mean, normally she mocks reporters, laughs, taunts everyone, but when it's about money, she's silent, not a peep. She knows it's over. And so we all just want to know, Congresswoman, can you tell us what your response is to the Oversight Committee launching an investigation into your net worth? You and your husband's net worth, actually. They're claiming that it's risen rapidly. What's your response to what they're saying?
Congresswoman, can you tell us what your response is to the Oversight Committee launching an investigation into your net worth, you and your husband's net worth? They're claiming that it's risen rapidly. What's your response to what they're saying? Do you think they'll find anything in their investigation into your net worth? What's your response to what you've seen from ICE in Minneapolis? You said you're going to vote to not fund DHS, the whole department, or just ICE?
And holy crap, Ilhan Omar always looks horrible, but today is very noticeable. She's cracking. Silence speaks louder than any response she could give. if it was legitimate, she'd explain it immediately by saying something like, I don't know, my husband built a successful business, or we made smart investments, something. But there's no explanation because, ladies and gentlemen, there's no legitimate explanation for that kind of wealth accumulation in that time frame. So she stays silent because anything she says can and will be used against her in a court of law, but will be investigated and proven false. And this is what guilt looks like. Loud and defiant about everything except the one thing that actually matters. She'll stand on her high horse and soapbox with the nerve, the gall, audacity to lecture Americans about inequality while her net worth explodes through corruption.
The one place where we thought we would never experience this is the U.S. goddamn states.
But then go silent when asked to explain it. The investigation will reveal everything. That's why she's not talking. Oh boy, folks. And here's the best part.
Here's Ilhan Omar's financial disclosure from the Congressional Record, year 2023. I want to bring your attention to this company right down here, Est Crew LLC. This is a winery in Santa Rosa, California. It's not doing that well. The total value of the winery is listed at $15,000, and Ilhan Omar's barely making any money off of it at all. Hardly enough to pay a parking ticket. Okay, that's fine. Nothing really mysterious there. Businesses fail all the time. But go ahead and look at her filing for 2024, and you'll find that Est Crew Winery, the same company in the same location, is now worth $5 million. That's incredible, up from $15,000. And now Ilhan Omar's making enough to pay rent. So this must be one of the most successful companies ever. Let's go ahead and check in on this winery. Maybe we could buy some wine. I like wine. Why not? Let's see if we can buy some Est Crew Winery. Here's Est Crew's social media Facebook page. You'll see here that the last post, oh no, was in 2023. Wasn't this the year that they were supposed to, go really big and make Ilhan Omar millions of dollars? Same thing on their Instagram, and they don't have an X. So let's go ahead and check their official website. What is Est Crew? We are winemakers and memory curators. Okay, Est Crew Winery has a bunch of brands that's led by these people, creators of eye-catching labels. So I'm sure I can go and get some of their wine, right? Well, they don't have any activities here, so maybe I could just go to their location and buy some of their wines, or maybe give them a call. Let's try and go to their location here. This is the Google Street View of Est Crew Winery, and what you'll find here is an empty parking lot. Doesn't actually look like an operational business. Certainly isn't the same name. So, okay, let's go ahead and give them a call. See if maybe they pick up. Let's go ahead and call the number on the webpage. Let's go ahead and give them a call and find out. Oh no, user busy. Let's try that. Okay. Well, I've done this like 20 times today. Okay, so that didn't work. Is there any wine in this wine company? Is there anything about wine? Because I see like stuff about events, but like, what is this exactly? Aren't you supposed to sell wine at your wine company? Where are your wines? Oh, there are no wines. You wanna know why? Because this is a fake company. Rep. Ilhan Omar's husband accused of swindling investors in their California winery. They stole millions from cannabis growers. You can see here's the lawsuit right here, saying that Tim Minette, who's Ilhan Omar's third husband, no relation, swindled his investors and defrauded them. How did Minette get this relationship? Well, the current Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, used to work for him. Isn't that curious? Keith Ellison, the same guy who refuses to look into any of the Somali fraud. So this company was sued for being a fraudulent company. And the New York Post says the exact same thing, as the House is now probing the mystery of Ilhan Omar's skyrocketing wealth. They said that Ilhan Omar went from being one of the poorest members of Congress, worth negative $65,000, to being one of the richest worth $30 million. Here's a rare photo of one of their wines that they allegedly made, The Devil's Lie. But the entire company is actually a lie. It's not a lie to Ilhan Omar, though, because she's able to list an enormous amount of her income and an enormous amount of her net worth to this fake winery. This winery is not worth $5 million. The winery doesn't even exist. It's fake. It's fraudulent. They need to investigate this right now. This is a lie. And maybe it's the devil's lie.
Wow. But the silence is deafening as Ilhan Omar's hands are trembling. I bet she's shaking. Looks like she's seen a ghost or was shaking as she typed this reply to President Trump's post that says, "I'm sending Tom Homan to Minnesota tonight. He has not been involved in that area, but knows and likes many of the people there. Tom is tough but fair and will report directly to me. Separately, a major investigation is going on with respect to the massive $20 billion plus welfare fraud that has taken place in Minnesota and is at least partially responsible for the violent organized protests going on in the streets. Additionally, the DOJ and Congress are looking at Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who left Somalia with nothing and is now reportedly worth more than $44 million. Time will tell all. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President DJT." To which the Somali welfare fraud queen replied by saying, "Sorry, Trump, your support is collapsing and you're panicking. Right on cue, you're deflecting from your failures with lies and conspiracy theories about me. Years of investigations have found nothing. Get your goons out of Minnesota." Well, that's just it. Ilhan Omar admitted guilt. She implicated herself right there. She said, "You didn't find anything." So that meant that there was something to find? Oh, but believe me, honey, Trump's right on cue. As always, and just put another dollar in the Donald Trump was right jar as Governor Walz surrenders and there's no pulling back. Tom Homan is on his way to Minnesota to strip you of all you got and send your ass back to East Africa.
Moments ago, Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him and that what we are looking for are any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that. That is a critically important development.
All right, y'all, let's hit pause for a second because this matters and it's really important. We talk a lot on this channel about taking control of your life, making smart choices, and not letting the system overwhelm you. But when it comes to navigating Medicare, it can feel like you're wading through a swamp of total confusion. Plans, coverage, costs, deadlines, you name it. And that's where Chapter steps in. They're not just another company. They're the real deal when it comes to free Medicare help. Chapter's team of advisors has helped thousands of people across the country find the right Medicare plan, and they do it with one goal in mind, putting you first. No fees, no pressure, just honest guidance to make sure you're covered without breaking the bank. Big insurance companies have their own agendas, but Chapter's got your back, fighting to get you the plan that works for you. So if you're approaching Medicare age or helping a loved one figure it out, don't go it alone. Call Chapter today at 270-467-2426 and start getting the clarity you deserve. Because at the end of the day, protecting your health and your wallet, well, that's not just smart. It's living life on your terms.
Here from our Fox 9 team is Mayor Fry of Minneapolis on that conversation with President Trump, saying, quote, "I expressed how much Minneapolis has benefited from our immigrant communities and was clear that my main ask is that the Operation Metro Surge needs to end. The president agreed that the present situation cannot continue." It goes on here on Live Now from Fox as some federal agents will begin leaving the area tomorrow, and I will continue to push for the rest involved in this operation to go. Minneapolis will continue to cooperate with state and federal law enforcement on real criminal investigation. So this, in terms of that pullback, a retreat of sorts of some of those Border Patrol agents, those ICE officials on the ground there. We did hear.
And yeah, all right. All right. Yes, I will admit there will be some pullback by federal agents on the ground, but by no way and in no means a retreat, as Ilhan would have you to believe, or at least her Democrat base. Because we don't listen to a word she has to say. But not only did Trump talk to Governor No Balls Walls, and Mayor Jacob Fry called too and negotiated a surrender, begging, pleading, Trump, Daddy, please. And you know why? It's because of Cam Higbee and, well, the leaked and infiltrated signal chat bombshell and all the high-ranking Minnesota officials, politicians exposed. And would you believe it? And what do you know? But where did Ilhan's name fall in that chat? Well, pretty much at the bottom, because much like Keith Ellison, she wasn't even worth it to the Dems in the state to keep her in the loop. It's almost like she didn't even know that they had cut her off the group chat, kicked her out, and she too didn't get the memo. Oh, but read my lips. Trump didn't cave.
Hello, Minnesota. We are 8 weeks into the unlawful federal occupation of our state, and we are beyond outraged. But I'm not afraid, and I'm not tired. Neither are my fellow neighbors. This past weekend, there was a third shooting involving a federal immigration agent and the second fatal one. Alex Preddy, an intensive care nurse at the Minneapolis VA, an employee of the federal government and a proud union member, described by his coworkers as the first person who would jump in to help. He was our neighbor, and he should still be with us, as should Renee Good, a mother and poet who we lost too soon. My office is representing the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and joined by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office in a lawsuit to prevent the destruction and tampering of evidence related to Alex Preddy's shooting. On Saturday, we filed a motion for a temporary restraining order asking the court to take immediate action to preserve this evidence. And after 2 hours, a judge granted the motion. It is critical that state investigators be allowed to conduct a fair, thorough investigation. Today, at 9 a.m., I will be in federal court with my team, arguing for a restraining order against Operation Metro Surge that would stop this unlawful occupation of our state. This is the largest deployment of immigration agents in one place at one time in American history. We are dealing with an unprecedented breach of constitutional order. This surge has hurt small businesses, drained local law enforcement's time and resources, disrupted our education system, and terrorized our communities. And it has to stop. And today is a big step toward that. Now, make no mistake, we are dealing with a targeted oppression from the federal government because of what we value and how we vote. We take care of the most vulnerable among us. We welcome immigrants and refugees who are seeking a better life. And 3 elections in a row, we voted against Donald Trump. People in Minnesota are angry, beyond outrage. So am I. But if the Trump administration thought we were going to give up, roll over, and comply with this tyranny, they didn't know Minnesota. Well, they know us now. We are not afraid, and we are not tired. Resisting oppression is what America has always been about, from its very first days. There's nothing more American than standing up to tyranny in whatever way you can. I have seen Minnesotans standing up for each other, and I owe it to you to match your bravery. The Department of Homeland Security is not above the law. ICE is not above the law. The agents who are terrorizing, assaulting, and killing our neighbors are not above the law. And no Minnesotans, not Renee Good, not Alex Preddy, not any of our immigrant neighbors, no Minnesotan is beneath the law.
But just hours apart from the publicized announcement on all mainstream media news channels, today at 9 a.m., Keith Ellison let the cat out of the bag and exposed himself, confessing about him being cut out of the loop as he cosplays as an attorney and saying he was in federal court fighting for Minnesota and seeking a restraining order to stop ICE's unlawful and unconstitutional occupation of the state. But the deal was already done. Oh, you didn't know? Keith Ellison, everyone, the Muslim Attorney General of Minnesota who openly supports Antifa and has documented ties to an Islamic center that is recruiting men to join ISIS in Minnesota, is working hard to stop ICE from being able to arrest the many illegal alien pedophiles and terrorists in Minnesota. A wildly unpopular request that nobody wants, actually, by the way.
Yeah, sometimes I like blunt questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deport all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters. Feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably more hawkish. And I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh, different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants who are here illegally, want immigration levels decreased. This includes legal and illegal immigration. Look at this. Last year, 55%. That is the highest level since the 9/11 aftermath. You go back just to 2020.
And this, again, legal and illegal. So people want less people coming into the country.
Exactly. They want less people coming into the country. Look at that. That's a 14-point rise from 2023. You go back to 2016 when Donald Trump again was running for president the first time, it was 38%. That's a 17-point rise. So the bottom line is more folks want people who are here illegally deported, and their overall feelings towards immigration have become considerably more hawkish.
63% say they're okay with deporting immigrants who are here illegally and arrived in the last 4 years. 87% are good with deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have criminal records.
Even CNN polls prove Americans want every illegal deported, no matter what Dems scream while on Capitol Hill. And so that means you too, Ilhan. But I'll tell you what somebody told me today, and that is, this is why you don't elect Muslims to office. Pedophilia is acceptable in Islam because Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6 and raped her when she was 9. At DHS Gov said their operations in Minnesota have been focused on arresting pedophile illegals and illegals who have beaten and abused women. At Kristi Noem called these the worst of the worst, but it's worth noting that Keith Ellison has been accused of domestic violence by multiple women, by the way. But in Islam, there is no such thing as domestic violence because men are permitted to beat their wives and make women their sex slaves. It's Sharia. This is why Keith Ellison is opposed to ICE operating out of Minnesota, and many want to see a ban on Muslims and them no longer holding office in the United States. It just makes sense. But hey, Keith, I know you've been out of the loop, but you do realize we have you on recorded video taking bribes from Somalians to not prosecute their daycare scams, right? Nobody is above the law, and especially not you. And so you see, the U.S. Department of Justice served grand jury subpoenas to the offices of Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, Governor Tim Walz, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, and others. These subpoenas, issued just last week, seek records and documents as part of an investigation to obstruction of federal immigration enforcement and billions of dollars in assorted fraudulent investigations. And so given the timeline, now it makes absolute perfect sense why Tim Walz and Jacob Frey finally decided to give up and surrender. They weighed the options and they both knew this is where it would ultimately end up. They're more than likely going to hand over voter rolls to Pam Bondi, but have also negotiated deals to roll over on Ilhan, the whole fraud scam, Amy Bach, Ellison, and more than likely expect these two to resign or quietly bow out and fade away into the darkness and allow Trump to take control of Minnesota and begin the healing process. Peggy Flanagan won't take over as governor either because she'd have either been arrested or have had fled the country after getting exposed in the Signal chat. And so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where I leave you. But I have just one last clip to play for you all. And I want you to pay very, very close attention to what exactly Jacob Frey confesses here. And you just tell me what it means, or better yet, who he's talking about and how those bracelets, cuffs, and orange jumpsuits will look on old Ilhan and Peggy.
So the fraud is real. Mm-hmm. The fraud that took place here is very real. And when you commit fraud, you get investigated, you get charged, you get prosecuted, you get arrested, and you go to jail. As an individual, you go to jail as an individual. The whole community, however, that you are part of and the whole city that you live in is not held responsible. The whole state you live in is not held responsible. That's the way things work in Minnesota. That's the way things work in the United States of America because everybody has due process and habeas corpus rights.
The final nail in the coffin. As an individual, you go to jail. The fraud is real. Ladies and gentlemen, please like the video if you like the video and subscribe for more. Thank you all so much. Take care, be safe, and stop back by tomorrow because I'm going to have an amazing show and a new podcast for you that I've been working on all day. But I just wanted to share this bombshell that just flashed across my feed here and just dropped while it was still fresh. Y'all be safe out there and God bless.